Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to build a sick ITX gaming PC in this pretty tiny case. But not only is this build going to be tiny, it's going to be powerful. Because it's going to be run by this Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core 24-thread CPU. And I'm going to liquid cool it as well. Stay tuned to see how I do that in this video. I forgot that I don't have sponsors. That sucks. Alright, so to start off, let's actually quickly talk about the case we're using. This is a case from Geek. That's Geek with 3 E's, which is really weird, but I'll have it linked in the description below. It's one of those cases you have to build yourself. They just send you a bunch of parts for. It's a very small ITX rig. As you can see, it's one of those cases where the SFX power supply is mounted like this on top. I've already mounted it and put it in because you had to mount it before you built the entire case, so I just have that done. But besides that, it's a very small chassis. Here's the I/O shield cut out for scale, and of course we have, this is a 92mm fan mount. Keep that in mind, it'll come back later. We do actually have mounts on the top and bottom for 120mm fans, but you have to use super thin ones, and we won't even need it for this build. But besides that, it's just a very small case. It does have acrylic side panels, but they're not on because they're super reflective, so I'm just going to leave them off for now. And that's really it for the case. So yes, I did mention we're using a Ryzen 9 in this build, and that we are liquid cooling it, and how we're going to do that, I will show you in a little bit, but first things first, let's get our motherboard built so we can get it in this case. So for our motherboard today, we're actually using a pretty basic board. This is only a ASRock B450 gaming ITX. It's nothing special, it's just a B450 chipset on an ITX board with Wi-Fi. It is the AC version, so that's great, but it is Ryzen 3000 ready, and I've actually found by using this in a similar size system actually, that this board can actually handle a 3900X. Now, if we're getting any overclocking, I doubt it, but honestly, you really don't need to overclock modern Ryzen CPUs. Their boost clock is very high, and when you overclock, you tend to lose that single core boost, and that's especially good for gaming. Although this is not a gaming PC, as we'll talk about in a little bit. Again, really nothing special, bare bones board, but it does have something very important, and that's this M.2 slot on the back. Because this is a small case, and there is technically mounting for a 2.5-inch SATA drive. I don't really feel like mounting one or using one or SATA cables or anything, so we're going to be using this 1TB NVMe SSD. This is one of those older Samsung something Evo drives. I don't know, I ripped it out of a pre-build. It's got Windows on it, it's 1TB, super easy. I'm going to be putting it in this build just because it works, and it's good, and it's NVMe, so it's nice and fast for that Windows boot, and 1TB is plenty for what the person who's getting this PC is going to use it for. Yes, this PC is for someone else, so I gotta make sure I actually do a good job on it. Alright, so we are going to install our M.2 on the back. This isn't the greatest way to balance the board, but I don't care, so it's really easy. We're just going to pop that in here. We have our M.2 screw already on our magnetic screwdriver. Push that down and screw that in. I love these M.2 slots. They're so easy. Done. Just like that. Boom. All the storage we need for our PC, 1TB. That's it. No more storage, no SATA cables. I love M.2 drives. Please, company, send me more. I want them. But that's the point. Let's mount our CPU. I have to take these off because I will not be needing them, so 1 second. So those are off. We don't need the standard stock Ryzen mounting hardware at all. We're going to be using custom mounting for this cooler today, but we have a Ryzen 9 3900X. We're going to get that out and install that. So installing Ryzen CPU, if you don't know how, super easy. Don't know why I'm using this as a tutorial, but just like that, pop it in. It lines up like this almost every time, although there is that triangle. Who cares? And just like that, CPU mounted, 12 cores, ITX easy. Let's just do RAM real quick while we're here. This is only 16 gigs of DDR4 3000. Again, because what this computer is being used for really does not need a lot of memory, nor does it really need fast memory. So we could just pop in 16 gigs, upgradable to 32 or even 64 easily, now that they make those kits. And just like that, our motherboard is basically done. We have storage, RAM, and our Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core CPU. And we can move on to actually getting this mounted in the case. Alright, so next step is actually mounting our motherboard and CPU and everything else in our case, which is actually going to be a little more annoying than it should be for an ITX build because of the amount of stupid little wires and stuff in this tight space, but that's the point. So as you can see, we have our power supply already mounted and cabled because when building this case, you have to put it in before you put on the top panel stuff, and I didn't feel like waiting to do that, so I just built it in right away. This is a Silverstone 500 watt 80 plus gold SFX PSU. It's pretty expensive, about $100 on Amazon. I will have links to every part I've used in this video on Amazon in the description below. Warning, do not pay more than retail price for any part that's here. Amazon part pricing at the time making this video, especially for graphics cards and CPUs, is atrocious. I will just be leaving links, Amazon links, in the description just in case you want to see what parts, but make sure you are paying the proper price, and make sure it says ships and sold from Amazon.com or a trusted seller, because again, you don't want to get ripped off. So I'm giving you that warning right now. People have been getting ripped off, especially with CPUs on Amazon. So besides that, let's get this thing mounted in our case. So you know I'm dumb. Have you seen the videos of people like walking through glass doors?
Yes, actually.
I want to do that.
You want to do that?
Yes.
Nobody wants to do that.
Walk through a glass door?
Yeah.
I very actively would like to do that. Good thing I'm not getting paid for cable management. I'm getting paid for a fully built PC. My big man hands were not made for this. Alright guys, so we have our motherboard mounted in our case, and yes, I know cable management's not great. I'll probably go back when I have zip ties. I forgot to bring them here. Now, I did mention I was going to be liquid cooling this build, but you're probably also wondering how the hell I'm going to do that with such a tight space. Well, one quick trip to Asetek's website, and I picked up one of these. This is a 645 LT, a 92mm all-in-one liquid cooler from Asetek. Now, it is very small, but it is a pretty thick radiator, so it should actually be able to handle our 3900X even under all-core load at stock operation. I love the mounting system. Ready? You just pop that in, push up, twist, and your mounting hardware is installed. Really easy. And we, of course, need thermal paste. Arctic MX4, you know it. It's been all around the channel. Great thermal paste. Love it. It just works. Just going to put a way too much amount. Alright, guys, so this is what we have. I know it's not super impressive, but this, I love this cooler. I think it's so awesome. This tiny cooler, I want to work with it a lot more. Asetek, you should send me another one. And it should actually keep our Ryzen pretty nice. This is just one of those Noctua black Chromax fans that I mounted on it. It's like $14 or whatever. Way too expensive for a fan, Noctua. But it does take only the slim fans. I could also do a push-pull with a bigger 92mm fan on the back, if I so desired, but this should work absolutely fine because this is such an efficient little cooler. Let's move on to what is probably the final piece of our build, the graphics card. Now this is the part where I was kind of holding back on saying, because some of you might be a little confused, because for today, for this insane liquid cooled 3900X 1TB NVMe SSD build, the graphics card is going to be this. Yeah. Some of you may remember this from my HP pre-built video, and if you don't, this is a GTX 1060 3GB. I wanted to use something 10 series or better, something with, Pascal encoding, just in case, but the main use of this PC is actually going to be SolidWorks. Through my research, I found that SolidWorks is easily CPU bottlenecked. So a 10 series, even like a 1060 GPU should be absolutely fine for programs like that. This is a PC meant to get CPU work done. If you wanted to game, which he does play the occasional Minecraft and stuff, a GTX 1060 should be fine, even the 3GB variant. So I'm just going to install this. Alright, and with that mounted, we end up with, well, a pretty decent looking system. Again, it's not super gamery, there's not a ton of RGB, even the RAM's not RGB, there's some red lights on the board, and that's about it. This is, again, a work system, but it doesn't mean it can't game. That's the point. Let's get this thing plugged in, turned on, and tested. Alright guys, so I didn't bring a power cord to the location I was just at because I'm stupid, but I actually tested it and turns out the RAM I used didn't work. Again, I have a lot of broken RAM and I don't know why. So I had to replace it with this known working basic just Samsung memory, which is the same speed and everything, it just doesn't look as great, which is fine. You can't really see under the side panel. As you can see, we're booted up to our NVMe SSD into Windows 10. So I've been running a CPU-Z stress test that is a 12-core 24-thread load, 100% load on our CPU, but we're actually boosting to a respectable 4 GHz all-core, capping out below 90 degrees Celsius, and we're staying in this tiny little chassis. This thing is pretty freaking awesome. I hope you guys kind of enjoyed this little build. This is a little workstation PC that was actually ended up being pretty powerful and staying pretty cool and quiet. That's the point. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.